how are you?
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you. I feel like we're like LinkedIn friends, but I
I
don't.
know. I feel like I know you just from LinkedIn. It's such a funny thing.
Well, it is, especially when you have like similar, like, you get to learn people's like, the way they speak and the way they, present information. And I do feel like they're a kindred spirits, right? Like you
Yes.
start to be like, oh, that person wrote something. I'm gonna like, hi, Shauna.
Hi.
You're gonna, you're like, that's a trusted source. I'm reading what they posted or what.
Oh, that's it's a very mutual feeling. So
Oh, good, good, good. This is so exciting. To be able to, I didn't know. I talked to Anne the other day and she was like, we're gonna have some teachers, we're gonna have some this, some this. So, Shauna, just so you know, we tweaked the session a little bit to do less of like a training because a lot of the people in the room may not have used the tool before and more about why the tool even gets used, right? So we're just going to like look at that idea of like the impersonal finance because I'm just learning left and right. There's not a lot of like behavioral finance tools that people can use pretty easily. Like there's a lot of psychometric tools, but you do have to be either much more trained or you need to like they are a bit overwhelming. So this is an easy tool. So hopefully that's what we'll get to tell people about.
I love it. I'm so excited.
I know, I'm so excited.
Happy birthday.
Oh yes, happy birthday.
happy
Thank
birthday,
you.
Jen.
Did you have cupcakes today?
I had a slice of chantilly cake with my
Ooh.
lunch. So
Goodness.
yeah. Yeah. So I feel spoiled.
Good.
I
I
have to
don't
say
think
it's like
I've heard of chantilly cake in so long.
I don't even know. Is that a French cake?
I don't know. So, but it's a Whole Foods cake. It's a
Oh.
really popular Whole Foods cake. And it has my son actually made it for my wedding. He made
Oh,
like a 3-tier. He loves baking. I think it's
I
like
too. What
mini
is that? Right.
engineering.
Yes.
So he made like a 3-tiered chantilly cake, and I think it has like mascarpone whipped with cream to make the frosting. So it's really good with fruit, berries, and then like a vanilla cake.
Oh,
That sounds so good.
I'm from
Yeah.
Brooklyn, so we're like, I mean, I'm not in Brooklyn anymore, but like anything with cheese, like cheese Danish, sfogliatelle, like Italian cheesecake, like anything that's of that family, I'm like, sign me up.
Give me cheese, period. Just
Mm.
want cheese.
But it's like that idea of like sweet cheese with like a
Mm.
pastry, right? Like that's again in Brooklyn,
Cannoli.
everything a
Yeah.
cannoli, right? Ragut, give me like anything. And it's terrible because my kids don't like none of you probably, unless you're from Brooklyn, a sfogliatelle. It looks like a clamshell.
100. So my dad's from Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. And my kids think this is like the most terrible dessert, but it's by far the best thing you ever want to eat. And for years, I would cup the top and put a candle in it, and that would be like my birthday treat because nobody would want to share. Like my problem was
Perfect.
everybody would eat all my stuff, and I was like, I don't want to share. Like
What is it
No.
called again, Cara?
a sfogliatelle. It's oh God, SFOTEGLIA.
I love that you're trying to spell it. Have you seen the Italian spelling bee?
Yes.
How American Italians we have. So my dad's Sicilian, and so they've literally taken the most beautiful language. They go to New York and they butchered it. And so New York Italians don't say anything right. And so the rest of the country has learned bad Italian because of it. And so
Well, is
like
that any better than The
marinara, like
Sopranos? I mean, I think most people think The Sopranos are.
yeah, like marinara. It actually has an ARA, but Italian New Yorkers call it marinade with a D at the end. Like there's no D. It's such a funny thing. It's
Although
so
I have a kid named Riva, And he's like, Mom, my name is not with an AH, it's an ER. He's like, why can't you say my name?
Oh.
I love that name.
So funny. That's so
Yeah.
funny.
Mhm.
Nicole, where are you now?
I have lived everywhere in the country. I'm now in Arizona, but
Okay.
first 10 years I was in New York. And somehow over the next 30 years, I developed non-regional diction. But my parents still like you get one word out of them and you're just like Brooklyn, Spanish Harlem. Like
Right,
it's like
right.
like
And
it's
you guys had another Brooklyn girl on last month, right? Didn't you have Yaneli?
yeah.
Yes. Oh, she did a good job.
Yeah. I mean, the accents, people are going to be like, girls, bring us somebody from like not East Coast.
We should keep it a all girl presenter always.
Yeah, exactly.
We have some really great men coming on though in the spring. We're excited.
Oh, good. We got to give them
Yes.
a minute to
Yeah.
shine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea of having women. Like maybe we can highlight it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Something to be said.
Yeah, I like that. And then Cara, is there anything I need to add? Any links or anything I need to pop into the slides?
Well, I have the whole big slide for you just so you can see it. And it's on our last slide.
Look how
So
pretty.
I love
It's
it.
thank you. Sorry, it's this one and learn more. And I didn't put the links here, but what I was going to do is just drop all the links in and copy and paste so you could send it out with your email.
Great.
Unless you want me to make the links live now and we could share it during the session.
I think whatever, it's your choice, whatever you think is best.
You know, here's the thing. If we share it at the end, it's fine, but then they're all going to be in there. People start saying thank you. They don't get them. If I share it too early, people start clicking and you kind of lose their attention.
Yes.
So, you know, again, I'll totally ball in your court, but based on my experience, that's been the two things that's happened.
I'm happy to defer to you. And Shauna, we're able to email after, right?
Email the
All the
participants.
attendees?
Yeah, sure. I can give you their emails.
Yeah, because you did it through Eventbrite. You could just go in, pull down the
Right.
CSV, and then you could send them out an email.
For sure. Yeah.
Oh, great. And so, yeah, we can do that. And then my other question for you was, did you want me to have this background or do you want me to have like one of our virtual backgrounds? Do you care?
Your choice.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me okay?
Yep.
Everything's good? Okay, great.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and we have Kim here. Kim is with the New Mexico Coalition, and I think she just drove back from El Paso. But we're so excited she's providing the link. She is faculty with Central New Mexico Community College. And she does our website for the New Mexico Coalition. So hey, Kim.
Awesome.
Hi,
Nice to
Kim.
meet you.
And she has the best Bitmoji ever.
Yes.
Is that a bass or a guitar?
I am not sure. And maybe Kim logged on and then she stepped away for a minute because I know she was in transit earlier.
Making sure she's on.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
I'm
I'll
so
make
excited.
it pretty interactive and I'll try to do my best to keep an eye on the chat. But if you see something, I'll always kind of give you an opportunity to like, you know, interrupt me or, you know, I'm a big like I'd rather people leave with stuff that they feel super comfortable with and they're like, oh, I can use this. Then I've talked to them for 45 minutes and they've gotten nothing that they can bring back with them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is that's totally fine. And we'll pause for that. Okay. And I'm just trying to get my presenter view.
No worries.
Well, that's fun that I can't get that to work.
Are you a host?
Mm-hmm.
I am a host.
Okay, cool. No, because I see it under Kim, but I don't see it under you. That's why I asked.
Maybe I'm not a host, but I think I can present. I'm just trying to get my little slides to present.
Cara, what part of Florida are you in?
I live on the West Coast.
Are you having
is like
good weather or how's your weather?
Oh, well, today actually was a little chilly. When I say chilly, that means like 78.
Oh,
But I love it hot. So
I do too.
I was like
Yeah.
disappointed that we're moving out of like the 90s.
I saw on the Today Show that Northern Florida was getting some storms. So I was
Yeah, a
wondering.
little chilly. My husband's up in Orlando and he said it was like 60 there. He was like,
Okay.
babe, I need a sweatshirt.
It's definitely a jaded group with this Four Corners and our warm weather.
I know.
Can I tell you, ladies, that I drove to the Four Corners? Like I did a 68-day road trip. And
Are you
as we were doing the road trip, the kids were like, we have to go to the Four Corners. And I was like, okay. Like we had nothing planned. I let the kids dictate through Instagram where we were going to go. We just knew we had 68 days. And so we drove like 9 hours out of the way to get to this Four Corners. And it was by far the most disappointing. Like we paid $8 a person to go into this thing, to stand in a square, to take a picture. All of it, like nothing was open. It was just, I was like, oh, I really had high hopes for these Four Corners. But I have to say, White Sands Beach in White Sands Park in New Mexico, that and Coral Pink Sand Dune something or other in Utah or by Moab.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I don't remember. Yeah, those were the two coolest things I've ever seen in my whole life.
Oh, good.
So fun.
Utah has some pretty national parks.
So fun. It was so cool. We had such an amazing trip.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, White Sands is incredible, but you will definitely take home a lot of sand, no matter what.
And we broke our air mattress because we used that to sled down. Wait, because I was too cheap to buy like the sled because they wanted like $25. I'm like, I'm not buying a sled. So the kids were like, we'll use the air mattress. And I was like, oh, and then it cost me $49 because I had to buy
a new one.
My husband was like, so much for saving money.
You have a memory.
Well, it's sad because there's broken sleds like around White Sands. So my boys and I would scavenge the broken pieces and
put it together, right?
Yeah. Or just slide down like on a broken piece.
Yeah.
Sad.
And the other thing we did in New Mexico, we did some really weird things. We did Roswell, the alien place, but then we did a geode. We went geode hunting.
Oh, geocaching or
geode?
Cool.
The rocks. We didn't find anything. I thought we were going to get rich, but that didn't.
When I was in 3rd grade, I would crack open every rock.
Every rock.
There's a geo in this one. There's a geo in this one. My dad wanted his sledgehammer back because I never found one. Oh, I'm gonna find one someday.
It's funny.
Yes, I guess there's places where you can go and find them.
It was so cool. I some of these things were just so fun.
Shauna, I love that about you. It just tells me that you're a pure optimist.
Absolutely, right? I sure try to be.
Me too.
I don't know if that's one of the personalities. I have my cards here so much. I definitely am a saver, the planner, and the planner is my first one. But
we've now seen with all of our data, it's a little bit over 80% of all financial professionals basically look, and whether it's financial counseling, advising, teaching, people that are attracted to it, they all of our assessments basically look very similar within 1 or 2 or 3, statements between security and planning. Planning is always the dominant, security is usually the second.
That's me,
and then the third one depends on where you are in the country. But what we really get to see is that our clients don't look like us, right? And so that's where like a bunch of financial professionals get in the room and we all confirmation bias each other. Oh yeah, this is the way to teach it. This is the way we should explain it. But we all think and we have similar beliefs. So we actually need to design the education for the other side of the spectrum. So that's been really fascinating to me to look at some of this data.
Really. And also you probably talked about ages because my husband works nights. And so my 16-year-old and I played it. I'm like, Paisley, we're going to play a game. So I just like a card game. She didn't know what we were doing. And she loved it, but she was very spontaneous. Yeah. And she was like, Mom, am I spontaneous? She didn't think she was compared to other people, but it was her age. She wants to impress. No, it's status.
Status. I was just going to say, it must have been a combination.
The status disappointed her. She's like, I'm not a status person. And I said, it's because you're in high school. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fitting in or standing out. That's what we always
Right.
say with
Right.
status, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so fascinating.
Really
Well,
is.
Shauna, since you have experience with the cards, would you like to do a little bit of an introduction once we get started in a couple minutes when we get to the introduction part?
I am not prepared.
Okay, I will do it.
What's in my head? What's in my heart, I could say. I wish I had words in front of me.
And hi, April, welcome. We'll get started shortly in about 3 minutes. I always imagine with a webinar or any online class, like this amount of time, like you're finding where to park, you're navigating to the room, so it's the same thing online. Okay, let me find the correct link. Let me make sure I have the correct software. So
Exactly.
it all happens. Hi, Brianna, welcome. We're going to get started in a couple minutes.
Right.
Well, I'm going to have to play with those cards too and assess my kids.
They're
Yeah.
really fun.
And are you familiar with Cornerstone Foundation League?
Yes, but I don't know how. I'm familiar. The name is familiar.
It's so funny. I just met with them today, and now it's so I said to them that I was doing something with you all tonight, and they're like, "Oh, I think they're in our credit union league.
Cool.
They do all that." So it's just so funny how, like, I feel like, again, all the touch points, right?
It's a small world. Hi,
Small.
Gabriella. Good to see you.
Hi, Shauna. Good to see you too. How are you doing?
We're all doing very well. We welcome you, and we're going to have a fabulous night. We've got such a treat here to have Cara with us. I feel like our country is covered from east to west and north to south almost. This is fun. Who's furthest north? Maybe we don't have a lot of north, but we've definitely got the east and west and the south covered. I'm excited about this.
All right. And we have about 1 more minute. Oh, there's my friend Kelly.
This is a really great audience as well. We have a lot of teachers, high school teachers teaching financial literacy, and a lot of financial literacy enthusiasts and interests, those who work in credit unions and are very interested in financial literacy, a couple parents here tonight. So it's a really great audience. Everyone's motivated and excited to learn from Cara from put the personal in personal financial literacy. And that's what it is. It is a personal topic, and it's something that Cara's an expert on, teaching personalities that go with the personal part. So it really hits close to home. I love this conversation.
Okay, so I'm looking at the time. It's 6 o'clock. We may still have some people coming in, but how about we get started, team?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay, all right. Well, welcome to the second in our fall series. We have our Jumpstart Alliance webinar series, and we have Cara Macksoud joining us tonight. I am so excited. I'm so excited for several reasons. The first reason is it's my birthday, guys. And you are here at my birthday party. I am so happy. As a teacher, we're always learners at the same time. We're always students. So I couldn't think of a better way to spend my birthday than with you all. So I'm going to click right ahead so we can get going. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our Jumpstart Alliance. So New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah got together. We are the Jumpstart coalitions from our states, and Jumpstart is here to promote personal finance instruction for children, young adults, and really whatever life stage you're at. So we're nonprofit coalitions, and we came together to bring a series of webinars to you because we really want to bring this incredible information to our states, and support collaboration and support really best practices in the field. So we're so excited that you're here joining us tonight. Here we have our learning series. So our first session was last month with Yaneli Espinal. Tonight we have Cara Macksoud with Money Habitudes, and we're really going to look at behavioral economics. And then next month we have Robin Palmer joining us. Personal finance, we're going to look, is it a game or not? So we're going to look at that November 20th. If you want to sign up, you can just scan that QR code if you haven't already signed up for that session. And then I have my cup of tea here tonight, so I'm getting cozy and comfortable. Oh, look. Okay. Cheers, Cara. I'm getting cozy and comfortable. And oh, cheers to Shauna. Oh, Nicole, I like how you're doing that. Very classy. So we hope you guys are getting cozy and comfortable, that you can tune in and also relax and enjoy this evening, and just sit back and feel like you're spoiling yourself a little bit while learning. So Shauna or Nicole, do you want to say any words, or Betsy from your different states? Go ahead.
Yes, I'd love to speak for just a moment. Since the moment I first heard from Cara, I was a huge fan. Totally mesmerized by this concept of money habitudes. The habits and attitudes make your habitudes, and she's going to explain more tonight. But not only is this concept brilliant and really enlightening, but Cara is one of the nicest and most kind-hearted people I've ever met. She's so motivated to help every individual build their personal finance capabilities. So I'm really one of Cara's greatest fans.
Thank you. Nicole?
I'm just so excited to have Cara. We got to chat for a couple minutes before, and I think all of us who are involved in financial literacy, we all really become friends over the years, even though we never meet in person. And so when we finally do even get these face-to-face opportunities, it's so exciting. And we were just sharing that we just enjoy reading material from each other's posts and everything else. And there are certain people where you start reading their stuff and you go, I know this was well researched, I know this was well done. And every time I see Cara's stuff, I have that confidence in what she's saying. So I'm really excited to be here today. And I just love learning from people who are put their heart and soul into what we're all here for, which is financial education.
Betsy?
Great. And then I'll just bring greetings from Jumpstart, Colorado. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. It is building the right habits and attitudes is honestly what's going to carry all of us forward. So thanks so much.
Thank you. And then without further ado, I'm going to introduce Cara Macksoud. And she is the CEO of Money Habitudes, but I really want to say, if you're ever reflecting on the behaviors, or even for your personal finance, you're thinking, okay, what's that hill I need to get over? Or why do I keep finding myself in the same position? Like maybe I try to make a little change in my life. I think I have my budget going. I'm making those payments on my credit card, but then I slip back into some old habits. I might find myself at Home Goods when I really shouldn't be going to Home Goods. And what's really happening there? So here we have an opportunity to reflect on what really drives those behaviors. And as we are educators all on this call, personal finance is taught through a behaviorist model. We can really make some big changes when we use a behaviorist model. So here we're going to look at really deeply what's behind some of our motivations. Why do we do what we do? And how can we become more aware so that we can make changes personally, but we can also help students and families that we work with become more aware, and they can make those changes, and we should see big changes and big outcomes. So I am so excited to learn with you guys, and I'm going to hand it over to Cara. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Anne. And I have to say, everybody, thank you so much for such a warm welcome. This has been, this group is one of my favorites. Every time Shauna asks me, I always meet the nicest, sweetest, most hardworking people, right? And we know that a lot of us are out there doing the work. And beyond my mission at Money Habitudes, right? My big, big goal is to be a place where people can come and get education. So you'll see as I start to talk about stuff, Money Habitudes offers plethoras of content and education because we want to make sure that you're getting the content that researchers are coming out with. All of these new terms, financial interdependence, financial trauma, financial capabilities and financial well-being. And what does all this mean? So we really use our platform to make sure that we can get everyone, the information that's out there. I'm so excited to get started today, and I'm excited to, again, put the personal back in personal finance. So I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. You can all see my screen, right? I'm sharing. I'm good. Wonderful. And we're going to make this interactive. We're not a huge group, so I feel like we can really have some fun with this tonight. So in the chat box, I'd love you to all just write in, what was your first job and what did you buy with the money? Babysitting. Was there something specific? And you feel free, you can come off mute. I'm a big interactive kind of girl. Oh, we got a lot of babysitters. Was there something, did you go to work to buy something? Or did you go to work because it looked like fun? House cleaning. Oh, Amanda, I am still not good at that. Snack bar at an ice cream rink. I had that job. Corn stand, and you bought candy. I like that, Shauna. I used to have a kid I have 5 kids, and one of my children was really infamous at working at his brother's ice pop stand. And every dollar he made, he'd run down the block and spend it at the arcade. And then he'd come and work another 5 minutes and then run back down the block. And I was like, well, if you just stayed here longer, you'd make more and you could spend more at the end of the day. And that didn't seem to make any sense to him. Oh, somebody really wanted a purse. Awesome. Oh, Amanda, if you don't mind me calling on you, you wrote that you had your job house cleaning and you paid for sports and special activities. So just out of curiosity, was that what you were told because you wanted to do these things and there wasn't money at the house? Or was that really driven by you?
That was really because we wanted to do these special events and the money wasn't there. So a neighbor was willing to help me out. So I did it specifically because we didn't have the money to pay for it.
Interesting. Interesting. And Anne, you wrote that yours was a bet that you won a large amount of money from.
Yes. Yes, it was. I mean, it's maybe a crazy story, but it was a bet that I couldn't train my cat to climb a ladder, and I did. And so, but I remember being very excited about buying this electric keyboard where it had all the instruments, that you could play. It was programmed. It was a used one, but it was really cool. And then a large pink troll doll. They were really in. It was the 90s. Yeah,
Could we please diagnose this entire exchange from training the cat to the betting? I mean, I feel like this requires more cards. Like this is the next deck, right?
Right. And so as we're talking about this, I'd love you all, as you wrote in, take a second and just think about how this first job and this first monetary experience really shaped who you are today, right? Like the fact that it didn't take anybody more than a few seconds to write in what the job was and what they bought. Right. So what we call that is a financial inflection point, right? That is something that, think of it, the best way I always explain it is think of it like a divot in a street or someplace where, rain can collect if it's not a flat surface anymore. It doesn't just roll off. And so by having these inflection points, and we have multiples of them as we get older and older, it really gives us those are the things we call on when we're making other financial decisions in our life. What we always say about financial education is it's cumulative, right? It's not a one and done and I learned something. It's cumulative. But what we don't account for, and what we're really going to look at in today's agenda, is really all the cumulative knowledge that we've gotten, maybe on purpose and maybe not, a lot of nonverbal messaging that's gone on, things in our culture, things in our society, things our parents said or didn't say, and how that is playing into our financial habits, our behaviors, and our capability. So here's just a quick look at our agenda for today. We're going to look at what's a habitude, because of course everybody's like, you work for Money Habitudes. What is this word you've made up? It's actually not a made up word, but we're going to look at it. We're going to look at how our money messages have developed over time. Why do attitudes and behaviors matter? And then understand how self-desires connect to our money behaviors. And then briefly, we'll explore the 6 money habitudes. And I have a bunch of things at the end I'm going to share with you, and I'll send you out an email. So if you want to explore more or you want to learn more, we'll give you all those opportunities. And don't worry if you've never done the assessment, we'll get to that as well. I love Nicole wrote, my dad had a wallpaper and paint business. I remember us taking on hundreds of paper routes so he could give all his worker a big bonus and no one knew. That's so sweet, Nicole. I'm sure that has something to do with your, giving back at this stage of your life.
100%.
Oh, amazing. Those are those good habits. Sadly, we've got a lot of people that don't have those great ones. And we need more of that in the world. So I'm glad you're out there doing the work. So what is a habitude and where does it come from? A habitude, actually a dictionary word. Most people don't know that, but a habitude is a combination of a habit, your automatic reaction, and an attitude, which is your automatic thought and feeling. And we're going to look in a minute around like how your brain works and why automatic behaviors, you touch something hot, you pull your hand away, or if you've ever pet a dog and that dog goes to bite you, you're someone probably that anytime you go to touch that dog, you're going to have that kind of reaction. And so those kind of reactions, people don't often associate with our money, but they're there. Where do our money messages come from? Well, first and foremost, they come from our family. The American Psychological Association says by the age of 7, we already have the idea of currency. So we don't understand maybe a paycheck and what taxes got taken out and how much I'm saving in my 401k, but we understand that there's this idea of currency. If I want something, someone needs to purchase it. We know, usually children know which parent is the more yes parent than which is the more no parent, right? Maybe a grandparent might be a yes parent or a no parent. And so there's all these money messages that are going on, but they're not specifically talked about. So think about, so in my situation, and I always tell the story, as I mentioned, I have 5 kids. We lived in New York City for a really long time, which meant we lived in a very tiny apartment. Every time the book fair would come up, my kids would say, we're going to the book fair. And I would say, well, you can go look at anything you'd like, but we're not buying anything. And honestly, it had a lot less to do with money than it had to do with the space I had in my apartment for all the stuff. Now, I explained this to them and I said to them, guys, we don't need these books and we can go to the library. And honestly, they didn't buy the books. They bought all the trinkets that were at the end and we didn't need those trinkets. But needless to say, the kids would say, but this kid has money and that kid has money. And sure enough, I had a teacher who once gave my kids money and she wrote me a note and she said, well, because you forgot. And I said, oh, I didn't forget. I said, I've talked to the kids. They know they're not going to get money and da-da-da-da. And we went through the thing. And she said, yeah, but you're making them feel bad because all the other kids have money. And I said, well, in life, we can't always have what everyone else can have. And I think the earlier that we learn that lesson, but we understand. So my kids recognize that we weren't poor. It's not like we didn't have money. We just were choosing not to spend money on those items. And there was a conversation. But because most people are not having these types of conversations, it doesn't dawn on somebody that it just looks like a have and a have not. right? And so you don't really have this opportunity to say, we're just choosing not to spend money on this. We're going to choose to spend it on something else. And so again, those money messages are really bold, because had I not said anything to my kids and just said, no, you're not getting money for the book fair, they're going to create a narrative. As Brene Brown says, I'm going to tell the story in my head of what I think is happening, right? And that story in your head is what leads to trouble down the line. So how do we make choices? This is not a psychology class, so we won't go too down the barrel, but here's the basics, right? We've got 3 parts of our brain. We've got the human part of our brain, which is logical and it's focused on consequences. If I touch the hot pot, I'm going to get burned, right? But yet somehow with humans, we still need to touch the hot pot ourselves, right? And so you're like, why do we need to do it ourselves if we already know what the outcome is? That's in more of the mammal and lizard parts of the brain, where even though we know something logically, we impulsively, we still want to engage it, right? And so the mammal part goes more to the pleasures, the rewards. You're focused on the present. I just want to do it, right? But then when we move into that lizard part of the brain, right? That's your fight or flight. That's your immediate reactions. And sadly, most people stay in that lizard part of their brain throughout their entire day. So in essence, it's their entire life. And it's because, again, life is cumulative. You can never not unknow what you already know. So once you know something, you file it. And once you file it, then you call on it every time something looks similar. Sometimes when something looks like it could be an opportunity, maybe you missed the opportunity the last time. And so you react to it. And what we really measure with Money Habitudes, and why we care about this personal side of personal finance, is really we're measuring what are those subconscious beliefs and behaviors. So you as a person can become more aware of your own, so you can set yourself up for, success. I always revert this part to the diet, right? I can decide I'm not going to eat, as we were talking earlier, this Fouilladelle, we'll go with it easier. The ice cream, I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to do it. Yet when I get stressed, it's past 8:30 at night, and without fail, and then I rationalize it, right? I go down this whole barrel of like, well, tomorrow I won't do it. And and all of a sudden I'm a half a pint in, and now I'm annoyed with myself and I'm upset. And then the next day, instead of trying to reset, I'm like, well, I already ate it. It's too late. I'm too far gone. Why not? Right? And so that mindset keeps us in that survival mode, right? We're just like, well, we're going to keep, putting things on top of one another. But here's the big, big thing we need to know. For every one logical brain message we get 5 emotional messages. And that's just the way our brain works, right? That's just the way we tend to call on things. So we can understand, I shouldn't eat the ice cream, yet I like it. I can go to the gym. It's going to make my paper writing go faster. It's going to make the argument I got to have with my husband later feel easier. Like, you could go down all different barrels. And so those emotional parts of it really start to dictate what we do. So why do attitudes and behaviors matter when we're talking about personal finance, right? We should just be able to, we have financial education. We've come up with a system. We know how to teach it, and we're going to give it out, right? And then we've got financial literacy, which is like the level of knowledge about these principles and these concepts that exist in financial education. Well, that would be great if it worked, right? If we have more, the statistic right now is we have more financial education and content available than ever before in the country. I'm not saying it's all good. I'm not saying it's all perfect. I'm just saying the amount of it is more than ever before. Yet we simultaneously have the highest level of debt, and some would argue we have the lowest level of financial capability. And so what is that telling us about the education and the literacy? That even though I'm sitting through the class, even though I'm learning it, when I have to act on it, when I have to execute on the information I learned, I don't possess those skills. And I think we like to say, or what we like to think is, oh, I don't possess those skills because maybe I didn't understand how credit worked, or maybe I didn't understand how savings worked. But I would argue to say that the behavior, that emotion is actually playing into more of what's happening than the actual education and the literacy, because I know people who can revert back to me how a budget works or how a credit score gets built. But yet when they wind up in Home Goods on a Thursday night buying something, it's funny. And the Home Goods ones is really funny. If I can take a minute to tell a cute little story, and it wasn't so cute, but it was in the end because we helped her. But I had a woman that I worked with, and she said to me, I save and I do all of these things, and I don't really know what's happening, and I don't know where my money's going. So we set up a budget, and I said, bring me 3 months of your credit card statements, because at this point I don't even need anything. I could just look at the statements and I could start to see the story. And so I think it was Tuesdays, I would see about the same dollar amount. It was around an $80 dollar amount, but it was at like TJ Maxx every Tuesday. And I was like, so forget all of this. Can I ask you what's happening on Tuesdays? Tell me about Tuesdays. And so she would tell me about Tuesdays and how she went to work. And at 3:30 on Tuesdays, she had her manager's meeting. And her manager was a gentleman that she really didn't like. And she said, no matter what she did or no matter how she executed her job, there was a critique. She said, even when she did things that she knew were good, there was a critique. And I said, oh. I said, do you think this has any reason why you stop at TJ Maxx on the way home on Tuesday? And she said, oh. And I said, because what you're doing is you're self-soothing. Someone else has made you feel poorly. Someone else has made you feel not valued. And you are, in theory, what you're doing is actually not bad, right? You're self-soothing. You're pacifying your own self. You're making yourself feel good. But we're utilizing dollars that you don't actually have to spend to do it. So then I went on to ask her could she tell me about any of these things that she bought on Tuesdays? There was a lot of dish rags. There was a lot of sparkly placemats. And I said to her, well, how many if you've used them, I'm never going to get between somebody and the things that they like. And she put her head down and she said, all of them pretty much still have tags on them. And I said, wow, right? Because it was in the moment, she needed to reset her feeling of herself. And she did that through this habit she created. She would leave that meeting, she'd get out of work, that was her form of release. But it was costly. $80, 4 times a month, $300. I mean, at the end of the year, you're looking at a couple of grand, right? For items that you're not utilizing. So without even realizing, those are the things we do, and those are the things we do for ourselves often in that money. She wasn't chasing status. That wasn't for anybody else. She was doing it for herself, which makes it even harder to say, well, we need to come up with another. And so we did. We came up, we looked at the loop, and we said the cue, the reward, the trigger. Here's the guy is the trigger. And so what are we going to create? And so we created that she'd meet a friend on for like an early drink or coffee or tea right after work. And so that's a $6 outing instead of an $80 outing. And then she got to talk to someone. And so we were able to correct that. But those are those kind of habits and behaviors that really, right? So she was financially educated. She had the financial literacy. But when it came to the capability, she had a habit and behavior that was sabotaging herself. Any questions before I move on to the next part of this? So what is Money Habitudes and how does that come into play? Well, for very technically, Money Habitudes is a money personality assessment tool. It's got 54 statements and it covers 6 domains. These domains have been researched, and we have some newer research coming out in the early part of the year. But basically, the 6 habitudes are planning, security, giving, status, spontaneity, and carefree. I'll stop us here just to let you know, carefree is the only habitude that we know that's not inherently like that we're born with. So carefree, and the best example I always use is if you put two infants in a room together, you put 50 toys on the floor, without fail, both infants will want the same toy. And the reason is because humans, we're interested in other humans. We're like, hey, what are you doing? What are you playing with? What's going on over there? And that can be really great. But when we get to the Joneses and keeping up and the social media and FOMO, right, that's where it starts to become a problem. But with this part of it, right, we just want to make sure that as we look at these habitudes, we recognize what each of them are going to represent. We're going to go through that in a second. But I always like to point out that carefree is the one that's not the one that you're inherently, you gravitate towards. It's always because something's happened in your lifetime that makes you either give up, feel defeated, and we'll go through that more. But our habitudes assessment comes in an online version where you get to do all 54 statements and you get this nice 25-page report. Or as Shauna had a deck and I saw someone else with a deck, we do it as a card deck. A lot of our teachers really enjoy it because it gets the kids off of the technology and it gets them generating this conversation around behavioral finance, which a lot of times in our financial education model, there's not usually a big component for behavioral finance. Yet what we're learning is it's the behaviors that are actually hindering us from executing on the education. So we have to pay more attention to the behaviors and help people understand their habits and behaviors. So, and just so you know, again, as I said earlier, at the end, I'll be giving Anne a bunch of links. She'll be getting that out to you. So you'll all have an opportunity to try the online assessment. You'll get to try. We also have a teen version that's in beta online that hasn't been released yet. You'll get to try that as well. And we've got some other resources for you. So here are the 6 habitude domains. And I'd like to just go quickly through, again, we won't go deep dive how to read an assessment because I don't know if any of you are using the tool yet, but we're kind of just going to go through what we govern with the Money Habitudes assessment. We've got security. It really governs your level of money helps you feel safe and secure. With security, the biggest thing we look at, especially when people are dominant in security, is it a dollar amount? Is it a state that they need to be in? So when I say that, some people have a dollar amount. As long as in my account, I have $100, I feel okay, right? Some people are like, as long as my bills are paid on time, I don't care if the bank account is empty, I feel okay. Some people are, right, I don't care if I'm in debt. As long as I make the minimum payment, I'm good. Right. And so security isn't one size fits all. It's dependent on each person. Remember what we said earlier, your family, your beliefs, your cultural upbringing, your social constraints. All of these things have played a part in your money messaging and how you have the ideas around money that you have. So if you came from a place where, scraping by and really as long as you made the minimum payment, the landlord didn't bother you and you guys, or you paid the rent, as long as everything else, nobody bothered you, you slept safe at night, that might give you security. But if you come from a place that unless my mortgage is fully paid off and I don't owe a nickel, I can't sleep well at night, I'm going to work 3 jobs to get there, that's your level of security. And so there's no, again, one size fits all. With planning, we really look at that money helps you achieve your goals. My favorite thing with planning, and we've all had this friend, just because you have a plan doesn't mean it's a good one. So people have a plan. People will tell you they're going to I'm saving for this. I'm going to do this. I had a lot of friends like this in college. They didn't really have much money. But they had the plan. They were going to save for the big spring break trip. Now, I wasn't a big spring break goer, but I would be like, you're going to save all that money to then go blow it in a week? It didn't make any logical sense to me, but for them being on that vacation, being part of that group, there was so much value to that. And so my thought was well, if you saved all that money and then you invested it, couldn't you, in 30 years from now, you could probably rest on your laurels. But they were in the moment. So they probably had a bit of planning and a bit of spontaneity, which we'll talk about in a second. But again, with planning, it doesn't always mean the plan is a good one, but you're using your money to reach a plan. When we talk about planning, there's a short-term plan, there could be a long-term plan. Again, it's not one size fits all, but it's understanding who you are. And if your dominance is in planning very high, usually you can't pivot away from the plan. So I do see this a lot with our retirees right now who, right, for 40 years, they've been saving. They were the first generation to really know that Social Security wasn't going to be enough. And they had to go with their 401ks or their pension plans. And now where time is actually flipped and they actually are going to run out of time before they run out of money, they can't, the plan was to keep saving. And I have retirees in their late 70s that are still putting away money as if they're a 35-year-old saving for retirement. So, again, habitudes, not good or bad. It's about understanding where you are on each of the spectrums and how that's supporting your financial health. Spontaneity is money helps you enjoy the moment, right? So when you get money, you're doing the next thing that you enjoy, right? And so when you get money, when you receive it, when you work for it, how do I indulge this? Spontaneous, you may understand there's consequences, but you may not care. And so that's really the big thing with spontaneity. Status, you want to create that positive image. So we always say, and Shauna and I were talking about it before, you either want to fit in or stand out. You're really driven by I'm going to use this money to make me look good, or I'm going to make, again, we've all had that friend who goes to pay for the whole bill. And you're like, but you don't have the money to pay for the whole bill. Why are you paying for the whole bill? Right. And so that's usually status driven. It could be giving, but more than likely it's status, because they want to show everybody, look, I'm doing well. I can afford this. I can pay for everyone. So that's really, again, where we see status come out. Giving, money helps you feel good by giving to others or doing for others. The big, big, big thing with giving, you always want to know is that, when someone is really dominant in giving, they're not always thinking about the receiver. So they really get joy of giving, but the receiver might, and it could be multiple receivers, but there may be like the person's like, I want to do it on my own. I will say we see this with adult children where parents are still very involved. And I often get the kid that says to me, like, I just want mom and dad to let me like go off on my own. And they just keep buying and doing for me. And like, I never get my own chance to like spread my own wings. And then, as I said earlier, carefree. Carefree really measures that money's not a priority. You're not thinking about money. Money could come in, it could go out. You're usually, you're letting someone else maybe lead the way. You take other people's recommendations. You often think everybody knows better than you. The big thing with carefree, unlike spontaneity, because you may go with the flow. So it may look spontaneous. If somebody's like, oh, we're going out, we're going to go on a vacation. You just may keep saying yes because you go with the flow. But you don't always know there's consequences with carefree. Whereas with spontaneity, one is more active. Like spontaneity, you're taking the active. Carefree is much more like you're just going along with the flow. Any questions, any thoughts, anything anybody's like, love to understand that more? Can you be a combination? Absolutely. And what it is, I don't know if you heard Shauna and I talking beforehand, it's actually you're in every habitude, you fall somewhere on the spectrum, right? So what we see is that you oftentimes are dominant in one or two, meaning you have 4 or more cards in that habitude. When you get to 6, 7, 8 cards in a habitude, that's where you're like super dominant. And then what happens is the other habitudes support your main habitude, right? And so that combination is really very, very, very important to the way you're going to behave. So I had someone I worked with a couple of weeks ago. I did a big piece for the Gaming Commission in Minnesota. And they had a client that came up dominant in planning and dominant in spontaneity, which most people would be like, these are so very different, right? But what we found, it was very similar. And the best example I could give is like a functioning alcoholic. Like the person was running a business. They were running this business so efficiently. They were there. They never missed a day. But then as soon as it was a Chinese restaurant and the kid was of immigrant parents, he was running the restaurant. And then when he would leave at night, he'd go to the casino and he would just go unleashed. And so he was holding both of those dominances. He just learned, he learned how to manage it. And what was happening is he wasn't like, although he was doing great in the job, right? In theory, he should be taking that money, bringing it home, investing it to like buy his house or raise his family. And the family couldn't figure out like how he was doing so well at the job, but there was nothing to show for it. And so it was fascinating, right? And so he could run the business. We know he was financially literate. We know he knew what was going on. But yet his behavior, his addiction, right, was putting him in this other direction. Brianna says, this is an interesting behavioral dynamic when you really think about it. It's super interesting. And what it allows is it allows us to stop going right to a budget or right to a credit score, and which often feel very right and wrong, right? Like there's, we give out the 50-20-30 rule in budgeting. Well, if I think I have no money, you've lost me at hello, right? Because I'm already like, or I love the people who I meet. And when I start talking to them about financial education, they're like, I'm poor. I don't know anything about money, right? You still have a relationship with money. You still have an attitude towards money. You still have a belief system, right? And so what I loved about Money Habitudes is really this idea that it's neutral, right? It doesn't matter what social class or rich or poor or low income, high income, everybody has beliefs and behaviors and attitudes towards money, and money touches every part of our life. So if we can start with who you are, if we can put that personal back in personal finance, then when we look at a budget, we can develop a budget and we can tailor it around who you are. And is that supporting your financial health? So let's just do a little bit of another icebreaker here and get everybody loosened up. I'd love everybody to read these cards. And what I'd love you to do is find one of them that you think is not you. So the Money Habitudes assessment, when you do it, there's 3 piles. There's the that's me, not me, and the sometimes me. And as you read the statements, you put them in each of the piles. Well, make pretend you're looking for the card that's going to go in your that's not me pile. As soon as you've got it, put a thumbs up on your screen so I know everyone's good. Awesome. And then once you're done, in the chat box, tell me the person that's closest to you. So it's a family member or a friend or a cousin that you think this card, they would put, that's me too. So Betsy, if I can call on you, can I ask which card and which is, I love Amanda, all her kids. Which card did you pick?
Okay, card, I like being up to date. That might mean I have things like stylish clothes, the latest phone, new car, new gadgets. So,
okay, so, and you said
and my daughter, she finds money for everything. And she's always like, I gotta buy, I'm a big budgeter mom, but I mean, every time I look at her, she's got a new outfit on.
Does it make you nervous? Are you like, where did this come from? Because I'm assuming if you're saying this is not you, but it's her, then you don't identify with this card.
Yes.
And how does it make you feel? Is it something that you want to be like, hey, do we really always need new stuff? Or are you like, live and let live?
It's so hard for me because she's 28. She wants to look she's early in her career. But I want to say it just doesn't matter. Like it just don't think that, you're out what's, the images that you're portraying. Yeah, yes, you've got to be put together. You've got to have clean clothes, but you don't need a different outfit.
Right.
And she's a big run the runway for and I just do it, Mom. That way I have 4 new outfits that I know I've got 4 new outfits and I'm always like,
And so I would ask, if I'm not being too personal, if she wound up in financial trouble and you
Mm.
had to give her money, how would you feel about that?
Oh, I'd be upset because I would say you got yourself into it, sister.
Right. So, and I only point that out because I do think, right, this is where we're trying to show that we all do have beliefs and ideas about money, and whether we don't want to be judgmental or not, right, we go what we do for ourselves and we know what keeps us safe and secure. And then we watch others execute differently. And then, right, but it's not what she needs to feel good is quite different than what you need to feel good. And right, as long as you're not paying, you're like, I'm good. But if we have to cross that line, might not be so good anymore.
Yeah, totally true.
Someone else said, a friend of ours. So Brianna, which card did you pick? We'll see if it comes through the chat. I like being up to date as well. Yep. So yeah, again, I think it's for those of us who we're happy with what we have. We don't need to always fit in. Again, as you can imagine, that card, the like being up to date, it's definitely, yeah, it was your friend. That's a status card, right? And so again, having one status card, not a problem. Even having 9, although I would say it's probably you probably have a bit of debt going on. Usually we see that. Again, there's no right or wrong with the habitudes, but it's being aware of who you are and is it really working? So if you're up to date on all of your stuff and you feel so good about it and you can afford it, no harm, no foul. If you're up to date because you want others to notice you, or you're looking for that attention, or you're looking for other people to go, wow, you got a new bag. You got new shoes. Oh my God, you got a new car, right? And then when you don't get that attention, or you actually realize people are only really caring about themselves, not really about what you have, and you're not getting that level of satisfaction, then is that money well spent? And so I always think of COVID when we were all behind Zoom and we had all these fancy work outfits. I remember looking at my like 9 pairs of shoes in my closet that I went to work with every day. And there was like 7 months where I had nothing but flip-flops on. And I was like, well, that was the biggest waste of money. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you're like, these boots are not made for walking because I haven't been outside in 7 months. All right, so we are gonna keep it moving. So again, as I said before, this is how the assessment is done. Again, I put up this one specifically for those of you that are teachers, and some of you may have some of these card decks. Money Habitudes is a 20-year-old company. I just took over last year, but it is a 20-year-old company. So a lot of you have card decks. I'm learning like in the superintendent's office from like 5 years ago. And so if you've never used them and your school has them, we offer support on our website as well. But this is how it's basically played out. You play it like solitaire. You have all the statements. The students go through them. They break them up into 3 piles. And really depending on what you want the student to get out of the pile. Of course, the that's me pile will tell someone where their dominances are. The that's not me pile, they're actively saying that's not them. And so there's always a story there as well, right? And then the sometimes pile is really interesting because that's usually where we find all of our associations, meaning that's where you're going to find who you were with, where you were, what you were doing, right? Because when somebody puts something in the sometimes pile, they're recognizing that they do it sometimes. And so I always think of my good Jimmy Buffett, who says changes in attitude, changes in latitude, right? And so we do know those people that like go on vacation and all of a sudden money's not real, or drinks or food, right? Like everything's free on vacation. And so there is, that moment where people in that sometimes pile, they do recognize it's a habit, but they know they're doing it under a certain, situation. And so by recognizing that, sometimes, again, if it's working for them, let's keep doing it. But if it's working against them and it's not supporting their financial health, back to my girl who kept going to TJ Maxx, right? She wasn't always a spender, but sometimes here she was going on these, trips to TJ Maxx. We were able to change the pattern of behavior to help her support her financial goals. And really, the truth, just to end the story over there, close the loop, the goal was like, how do we get you enough money in your savings account that you can walk out of that job and leave yourself enough time to go find one? Because if you're so miserable with that guy, let's stop spending the $80 at TJ Maxx inside of 1 year. If we did it as if weekly, as if you were spending the money, that'll be almost $4,000 you'll have. And based on her pay, that would give her like 3 months of like runway, you know, with her other savings that she could have extra so she can go find another role. And wouldn't that be better? And that was really the reframe, what we went around. I'll go back to this. We had I can imagine students and families doing it. Yes. So interesting, Anne, you had said that we have a teen deck version and then we have the adult deck version. And we do see that a lot of our credit unions, big workshops with the credit unions and big workshops with extension agents and with our schools do it. Because again, how many families are sitting around the table not talking about we can afford the rent or we've got to pay this bill? Because remember, those conversations that have stories behind them that nobody's talking about. But this is a way to have conversation around culture, a conversation around, you know, just the idea, how is money important to the family? What does money mean to the family? First generation family, very different conversation than an American family. You know, a divorced family, very different conversation than a single household family, you know, where there's both parents. Different conversations if there's multiple kids, different conversations if there's multiple generations living in one house. So of course, this conversation starts, and then kids and parents get to see, oh, you value that? Why do you value that? Why does that mean something to you? I had a profound workshop that I was at. They did the cards. I can't remember what it was, but mom and the kids started talking. And he said, well, I know we're poor. And she said, well, why would you say that? And he said, because we have ketchup packets in our drawer. And when I go to John's house, he has a bottle of ketchup. And so I had to not laugh, right? Because I'm running this workshop. But my grandmother was like, we had Domino's sugar packets, we had jelly, we had everything from every diner in Brooklyn known to man. I don't think we were poor. I think she thought if you ate there, whatever was at the table, you could go home with. And I was like, okay, she said to take it, I took it. So, but for this little kid, or he wasn't little, he was probably about 12, he was recognizing that somebody had something that was more valuable than he had in his home. So the story he created was he was poor. Now, that could have been the truth. But again, if you don't give that opportunity to talk it through, I mean, let's say you're not big ketchup users and you know there's like the one person who's going to come over and ask for that hot dog with ketchup. And, you know, I'm again from New York, we're like mustard only, but you always wanted to like offer the ketchup. So you take a ketchup packet because you have it, right? And so this story makes the context of what's happening for the family to really understand what the money message is there. Bottles of ketchup are a status symbol. It's funny you say that, Shauna. I just worked with Snap Ed. I'm sure you're all familiar with Snap Benefits. And we talked about the Money Habitudes assessment with their Snap Ed education, because when people get Snap Benefits, if they're of the status mindset, they're using their money to buy name brands, where they can actually get more bang for their buck if they buy generic brands. But if you're someone who really like, you don't want to feel less than, you're going to buy this, you know what I mean? You're not thinking through, oh, I can get 3 things for this one price versus this one item because it's the Kellogg brand, right? I don't want the bag of cereal. I want the box of cereal. And that's a real thing. Got some comments here. How could this be used to help build good thoughts about money for younger elementary students? So Kelly, I'll be honest with you, where our teen deck is our youngest deck that we offer. Although I will tell you, Consumer Protection Bureau of Finance, CFPB, yeah, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. And I'll get you the link. I'll make sure Ann sends it. They have something called the Money Monsters. And the Money Monsters have a very similar curriculum that's incorporating behavioral finance. It's not specific like this where it's statements, but they go through each of the money monsters and they have a different storyline and who values this and who values that. So when our clients come to us and they want for the younger group, I usually point them in that direction. And it's a free resource. Amazing. You go right on their website. They'll send you as many workbooks, worksheets, pamphlets as you want. Every kid in the class can get one. So it's super, super amazing. Julie, again, I'll make sure. Oh, and drop the link in. So that's great. Our teen deck, I would really say 15, 13, any younger than that, some of the statements are probably not going to make a ton of sense to them yet because they probably haven't experienced all the different things. So that's great. Oh, great. I'm glad that works for you, ladies. All right. I know we're getting close. So here's the big thing I really want you all to take away. Habitudes, they're not good or bad, right? It's a combination. It's where you fall on each of the spectrums, and it's really how you are able to use the habitude to support you. And as I mentioned, for the retirees I was working with, we had some really good habits that were supporting them, but there's that moment in time where we have to shift. So just like a financial plan, just like we check in with our doctors, right? Your habits and behaviors don't ever change drastically. We've actually looked at that research, but you do need to shift and bend and move because you're at a different stage of your life, and your financial health does change over time based on your goals, based on things you need. There's no combination that's good or bad, or right or wrong. Their overusing of any habitude could lead to a challenge, right? You're so reliant on it that you're not able to see other opportunities. And underusing or missing a habitude completely, again, there's usually a story there, and we want to figure out why. When I see people with zero in giving, I'm like, what happened? Talk to me about this. Although I will say, and Shauna and I have probably chatted about this a bit, when I did a big thing in Utah, which is a big LDS community, I just expected all the assessments were going to be off the charts in giving, right? Like it was totally my bias. I had just expected. I was like, they're LDS, they're all tithers. That's what we're going to see. And none of them were coming back dominant in giving. And I was like, what is happening here? And when I chatted with people, what I learned was it was planning. Because it's cultural. So they're giving, yes, because they want to be giving, but it's more like it's expected. They've been raised with this. They've been taught. They put it as part of their budget. And so it was part of their plan. It wasn't just this generous, like joyous, spontaneous give. It was a much more planned give. So that was really fascinating for me to learn. And I think I say that so I can let all of you know the habitudes don't do your job as a financial professional for you. What it does is it gives you some insight, who's sitting in front of you, what that client may be gravitating towards, and it gives you a way to ask some really great pointed questions to make that connection. And if you're doing it in a workshop or a bigger audience, it gives a person some ways to have some self-awareness around who they are, instead of looking at a credit sheet or a budget sheet and saying, but I don't fit in that budget, or I don't know how to do that, or I'm not good with money, or I don't have any money, so how would I budget any? Right? This gives them an opportunity to be part of something because they do have their beliefs and behaviors around money. My last slide, it doesn't have the links, and I'll get this all out to you. You'll be getting a link on the Money Habitudes assessment, so you can try it. That's our full-blown assessment. We've got the young adult teen one that's in beta. I'll also give you a link for that if any of you would like to try it. If you have feedback, please. That's what we're looking for. We're going to be sending it out for everyone, in about 3 months to get some good research on it. You can join us. We have a bunch of free community events where we host all kinds of events around behavioral finance. And then we also have a raffle that if anyone wants to enter it, we give away a free membership once a month, comes with assessments and training and all kinds of stuff. But I know we only have a couple minutes, but I'll open it up for any questions or if anybody has any comments.
I have a comment. I just haven't put it together, but it just helps with my mom guilt because I was always telling my kids, no, no, no. And now I'm like, it's okay that I told them no, there's reasons. So these habitudes, none of them are right or wrong. And we don't need to have guilt for telling our kids no or you know, it's a good, just makes more conversations, and talking with our families are important.
Absolutely. And again, there's, as long as it's no as a flat no, right? And I mean, sometimes I'm a mom too, right? Sometimes it's just no, we got to keep it moving. But when you can follow it with a conversation. So I did a podcast years ago, and I used Chuck E. Cheese, and we spent a lot of time, like 5 kids, all in 5 years, we spent a lot of time in Chuck E. Cheese. And I remember I used to always have this conversation with them in Chuck E. Cheese about saving the tickets. Don't spend them every time we were there, right? Because you could get a bigger toy and you can do this thing. And so instead of saying no every time we left Chuck E. Cheese, because without fail, 3 of the kids would be standing at the counter trying to get a bouncy ball that I was afraid the other 2 kids were going to choke on, right? It wasn't a no anymore. It was a, well, what did you make this time? How much did you come with from last time? What did you save? What shelf can you buy from now, right? And so generating that conversation, right, created excitement. Oh, I'm saving, I'm going to get something bigger and better, right? And so the no went away, and it became much more of a goal-oriented activity.
Love that.
Awesome.
Well, Cara, I'm imagining, you know, being a former early childhood educator, I'm imagining how the domains could be used during incidental learning. And because we know students bring financial issues to us. I mean, sometimes we hear too much information about what's going on in a family's life. And I wonder, or how students are making their own financial decisions. So I'm just imagining, just with this knowledge of the domains, that we can use some of those coaching conversations to help students reflect, you know, why they feel like they need that extra money for the Scholastic Book Fair, or how they're doing maybe with a you know, an outfit that isn't necessarily on trend, and how they're processing that. So I do think there's a great connection there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, knowing your own, when you all get the opportunity to do the assessment yourself, being aware of your own financial habits and behaviors is eye-opening, because then you really know where you're coming from, and it really helps you put in perspective then, right, as you're working with others. And why, I mean, whether we realize it or not, our eyes go down, our shoulders go forward, we start a little bit, right? You get, I sit with, so I'm a 9 in planning, but I have my one Carefree card, which I always say I fought tooth and nail for that one Carefree card. But if I sit with someone who's got no planning and like all spontaneity, like you see me, I start twitching, my hair starts going, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I start worrying for them. And that's right. Somebody's come to me for help. They didn't come to me for judgment. They didn't come for me to tell them whether they're doing good or bad. If they've sought my help, then I should provide them with whatever support I can to move them forward. And so being aware of my own assessment and my own habits, then I'm able to like put that in check and almost call it out, which I do. I say, this is who I am. I'm not going to put that on you, but these are some things I have found that work or helpful or whatnot. And that seems to be a much easier conversation than a like, this is the way the book says to do it, and you have to follow this. Because I think that feels like you're either succeeding or failing.
I love it. Cara, this has been such an enlightening evening. I want to thank all of you guys. I'm looking at the clock. It's 7 p.m. It's been a long day, but first of all, I want to thank you for coming to my birthday party. It was so much fun. And Cara, you were the guest of honor. And I know I'm going to go back and I'm going to be analyzing myself and the members of my family and thinking about those domains. So I want to encourage you guys to keep an eye out on your email. You're going to get a very juicy email full of wonderful links so you can explore these resources. And we encourage you to get involved with Jumpstart. There's an educator conference coming up. It's usually no cost or very low cost for educators. So if you like this type of content, there's so much more. But we want to thank you so much for your time, Cara, and educators and advocates, you know, thank you so much for this community we're building.
Thank you. Thank you. This was wonderful. I had a blast.
Thank you, Cara.
Oh, you're welcome. Let me know when the next one is. This is a great group. We had a lot of fun.
So fun.
Yes, we will share that for sure. November 20th.
Absolutely. Perfect. Do you want me to stay on for a second?
Absolutely.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. I'm
And
gonna
I'm
go
gonna,
shortly because my husband was bringing me bites of food while I was sitting here on the call because he's making me birthday dinner. But I'll just stay for a couple minutes.
oh, wonderful. And I'll get you these links. Give me about an hour and I'll get everything over to you.
Thank you. I can see, and I didn't hear it brought up unless I missed it in this meeting, but how it would be so beneficial for like freshmen in high school, sophomores in high school to do this as a dating, as they're starting to date, because it might be like have a deck of cards and play it with who you go on dates with, because that might decide if you want to keep dating them or not.
And in your state, Utah Healthy Relationships, the extension program, they
It's
use
good.
our cards all the time because,
Oh,
again,
good.
you could have people with the same habitudes, but
Yeah.
they're defining them different, right? I'm a long-term planner, you're a short-term planner. I'm
Right.
security, I need the bills paid off. Your security, you need so much money in the bank. And so really understanding those nuances is really what makes or breaks a couple, right?
Yeah.
Because there's only two reasons couples usually wind up in divorce, right? Infidelity and money.
It's true.
And so at the end of the day, if we both think we're this, oh, you said we were planning, I thought we were planning, and you're like, yeah, I was planning for like our retirement, and I thought we were planning for vacation, right? Those are different levels of planning.
Right.
So thank you, Nicole. It was great to meet you in person.
Thank you.
Through
Nice to
Zoom.
meet you in person. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.
You too.
You
Bye.
too.
Bye,
Bye.
Nicole.
And then I have to run too, guys. I hope that's okay.
Yeah,
Happy
have a
your
great day. Happy
birthday.
birthday.
so much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so
This
much.
was
Bye.
awesome. And I hope to meet you in real life
Yes,
somewhere.
we'll
It's
do
gonna
another
happen.
Jumpstart conference and I'll be there, I promise.
Yes, yes. And you got that email with Julie
Yep.
Matthews and then Verity.
Yep. I will get connected with everybody.
Okay. Bye guys. Thank you so much. I love this collaboration and I really do think it's the power of women getting together. We make the world go round.
Yeah, we do.
So amazing.
Bye.
Bye. Talk soon.
So, Cara, I love getting your newsletter too, and it's exciting to see all the other things you have going on throughout the month. So
I know we have so much, I feel like now, but it's so good. It's been so good.
it helps so many people. So I just truly want to thank you as well.
Thank you. And I was telling Ann, I have to figure out, because I'd be happy. I know it didn't work in Utah because I was in Florida, but if there's like one of the Jumpstart boards or the national, like and Anna had sent me some names, so I'll reach out. But if there's somewhere I could be involved more, like that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're supporting you all as best as we can.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. We have our big conference for the teachers every summer. So if you want to kind of keep in mind, it would
Is
be
that the one that we did last year, right?
Yeah. And what I would like to figure out how to do is have my classes not so small, not have so many breakout sessions, so it keeps the numbers bigger and not have it. I got permission to not have it in a high school. I'm
Okay.
off from the Utah Office of Ed because they say they want it in a high school. I'm going to go big and have it in a hotel and have big rooms and big keynotes. So
Good.
bigger and better to come out of Utah, and we'll keep you very close. You're
Absolutely. And let me know if you want me to do a session, if you want me to do, whatever. You just tell me. I'm happy to do, as long as you give me the dates and we can put it down. We're happy. I'm happy to do it. We can do a fun event. I just did for the Financial Therapy Association. I have to say, this was probably one of the coolest events. We did a money exploration interactive exercise. It was, I have to tell you, we've gotten rave reviews. Like
I saw a video on social media.
It was so much fun.
Table to table.
Yeah. We got in a little bit of trouble because we were so loud that the other breakout session was like, oh my gosh, but it was, they said, the FTA was like, if we ever do this again, it has to be one of the main sessions because there were too many people. Then we're like trying to find out what we were, because it was loud and it was boisterous, but it was fun. And I think that's a part of a component we don't do enough of is fun with money, because we all make it feel so heavy. And I get it. Money is heavy. Money is serious. But I do think we need to put that fun back into some of it so we can get people motivated to want to learn about it.
Yes. One of our banks is using the word fundamentals. You could
Yeah.
probably use that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Fundamentals of money.
No,
It
it's
is fun.
huge. It's huge because if we make it feel so dreaded, who's going to want to engage it?
That's right. Right. And I apologize, I wasn't more interactive. I know you said make it interactive, but I just wanted to sit back and soak it in. And so
Yeah,
I
no
turned off
worries.
my camera and just watched, and I loved it all. So
And
I just,
everybody else was. And you've seen, the pony show that I do 15 times over.
well,
For everyone
I
else,
just-
it's good.
yeah, I really want to enjoy, and I didn't want to take any seconds away from you. So that's why I didn't. But thank
No, it
you.
worked out great.
You did wonderful. And I hope you have a great
Thanks.
evening.
Wonderful. And so again, definitely make sure I have the dates for your event. And
Sure.
again, any way I can support you, always let me know. I'm
Yes.
happy to do it.
Ours isn't like set in stone yet. The pencil date is June 18th, but
Okay.
we'll let you know as soon as it gets in pen.
And you're the national one, right?
I'm Utah, so I'm a state one. I work really closely with the nationals. I get to have a voice with them, but I don't have an official position with them.
But
Someday.
where is the national conference? Is that the one that's up in Massachusetts or something?
Well, they have the teacher one is in Arizona, and then our state directors one is in Washington, D.C.
Got you. Okay. Interesting.
Yep. So
Well,
we'll
you let me
definitely-
know again, whatever I can do to support, you let me know. I'm here to help.
Absolutely. We'll stay in touch. Thank you,
All right.
Cara. Have a
Perfect.
fantastic
Talk
night.
to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.